And welcome to Flyers Game Day, little Flyers late night after dark hockey to wrap up. I guess we'll call it a 5-game road trip, right? It's 5-gamer.
Yeah, it's semantics, and I was trying to figure this out earlier today, just when we were trying to decide whether or not the Flyers are potentially going to sweep this road trip. It's like, well, they swept this part of it, but is that right? I don't know. So it's a 5-game road segment, definitely, but 3-game trip, I don't know. It's kind of hard to decide whether you want to call it that or not. But it depends on what you're talking about, I guess, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, they have a chance to win 3 straight for the first time since the first 3 games of the year. They beat New Jersey, Vancouver, and Tampa in those games. They gave up an average of 2. They won 5-2, 3-2, 3-2. So
and the thing of it is that regardless of the context of this trip, we checked on this today. The Flyers have never beaten all 3 of these teams on the road in the same season. And sometimes, usually they play these 3 guys all on the same trip.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's another team mixed in. But there have been occasions where they have not played San Jose at the same time as the other 2. And so, we looked at it from that angle. And the closest they've gotten to a sweep, a true sweep, is 2 wins and a tie. And essentially it's the same situation they're in right now because, the first game, that would have been perhaps, I guess, they won in overtime, but so regardless, but, one of those ties in the 90s might have been a win if there had been shootouts back then. Who knows?
Yeah.
I think the 1995-96 Flyers would have been a lot better at shootouts than anybody in the current era. So,
yeah.
It is semantics, but it's rare that they're in this position at this point in this swing. Regardless, the Flyers haven't had multiple wins in this holiday season road travel in 8 years, regardless of who they're playing. So this is a pretty good trip at this point.
Yeah, I was talking to a guy. I just got back from the rink a little bit ago because my son had a game for his high school team. I hope there's more defense played in this game tonight. 11-8 was the score of the game.
As long as both teams don't play defense, I'm good. Whatever.
Yeah, that would happen in this game for sure. I mean, look, 19 total goals in the game in a high school game is crazy. But anyway, I was talking to a guy and he said, "Yeah, good trip for the Flyers. They got a good chance to sweep this trip out there to California." And I said, "Yeah," it is a good trip, and the way the season's gone, it's a good thing. And I said, 2 of the teams aren't very good in San Jose and the Ducks. And he goes, "It doesn't matter. You're still going out to California to take on those 3 teams. It's not an easy trip. So you come back with 3-0 on that West Coast trip, and to your point, a trip they have not had success on in the last bunch of years. So, hey, that would be a great trip. The thing is a lot of people are conflicted. Some aren't conflicted. They want them to lose. Others, feel good about, seeing good performances out of players and the team go out and battle and win some games. But because you see what Bedard's doing in the World Juniors, I mean, the guy's obnoxious. There's no doubt about that.
Again, looking at the grand scheme of things, the Flyers are simply not bad enough to finish last in this particular season. And that gives you 25% odds of the first pick, I believe.
No, 18.5%.
18.5. Okay. I'm looking at I'm looking at something unofficial. What I'm trying to find out is, I know it was 18.5 last year. But anyway,
yeah, they had lottery reform. It's 18.5 this year too. Yeah.
At any rate, whatever it is, they're not good. They're not bad enough to finish last. That's just the way it is, because you look at the Chicago Blackhawks right now, and they're whatever. They have 20 points right now. So if you
4-4.
Yeah. If you throw that out, let's just look at last year. Last year the Flyers finished 4th from the bottom, 9.5% shot at the first pick. Third is 11.5. Fifth is 8.5. Sixth is 7.5. Eighth is, so we're talking about infinitesimal numbers here.
Yeah.
You're going to finish somewhere between, probably, given what Anaheim's doing this year, they're going to finish somewhere between 30th and, probably 25th.
26, 27, right?
Somewhere in there. So 30, 29, 20. So the difference between 26 and 30 is a total of 5%. So it's really not that huge. And again, you don't know which one of those balls is going to come out. I mean, it's they finished with the worst record in – last time the Flyers finished with the worst record in the league was 06-07, and they did not get the number one pick. Otherwise, you imagine the last 15 years with Patrick Kane as a Flyer. I mean, that's what it would have been. So, there is no guarantees. And at this point, granted, they are not going to, be a Stanley Cup contender this year, but they're also not going to fall down. And, no matter how good they play, they're not going to get up into like the 2% range or anything like that. So, it's at this point, it seems to me like a fruitless endeavor to root for them to lose, unless you just want to be miserable about it or something like that. So,
well, Edmonton's got that 1.5% chance, and they've won the lottery 750 times in the last decade.
Yeah, I mean, just if you want to have good lottery odds, you want to be the Edmonton Oilers, I guess. And then just can't figure out how to draft players with them. I mean, Edmonton should be this should be a Gretzky level dynasty with the picks they've had in the last 15 years, but couldn't figure it out, I guess.
Yeah. So I have
yeah,
I have the draft lottery simulator up here in the home studio. So it took me 3 picks to get this.
And that's the one that's where I got tripped up, because is that Tankathon?
Yeah.
Is that what you say? They still
Flyers,
have
6.5% chance of landing number 1, and here they have it. Vancouver moves to 2. Chicago with that 18.5% chance, which is actually 81.5% chance you're not going to get number 1.
Well, I got it. I got Flyers. I got Connor Bedard the first time I picked on it. So let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. But I didn't realize that Montreal's got Florida's pick, and Florida right now is a lottery team. They're 2 games.
That's a good spot if you're Montreal. It was a little bit of a shame that the Flyers couldn't have found a way to get another first rounder before this year started.
Yeah.
You could have perhaps pulled one over on some of these teams that might end up in it, but they would have probably had low odds anyway.
Yeah, no doubt. So
but again, we're looking at a draft, and maybe they're not all Connor Bedard, but there's at least 5 players in this draft that could be number 1 overall picks in other years.
Yeah, you're looking at Fantilli, Michkov, Leo Carlson, who had a good day today at World Juniors for Sweden. So there's a lot of guys there, and many others. So it's a good draft if you're not going to be great to get somebody. And who knows? You got to see how the lottery balls happen. And boy, it'd be great for the NHL for Bedard to end up in Anaheim. So no one ever. I mean, seriously, right? Like, what are we doing here? Or
You're probably elated that again, there's certainly no predisposition, but you can't help but imagine that some of the senior NHL folks are smiling on the inside at the fact that Chicago is in line to possibly pull this off.
Imagine,
but again,
Chicago again.
You just look at the way luck rolls around. 2007, Chicago's god awful. They've been god awful for years. And they land that first pick and get Patrick Kane, and then they win
a dynasty
during his tenure, and now they're bad again, and they're getting ready to perhaps be able to recharge with the next guy.
It's almost a joke.
It's almost time for the Flyers to have some luck, though.
Yeah. I mean, they had bad luck in 2017 when you moved from 13 to 2, and you end up in that draft and you get Nolan Patrick. So, but it is what it is. So wrap up this trip tonight in Anaheim against the Ducks. Ducks just not a very good team. The Flyers are a team that we've talked about, Bri, that's had trouble scoring pretty badly all season long. They've been better of late. But you want to talk about a team that really struggles to score, and that would be the Anaheim Ducks. Only one team scores less, and that's Chicago. But the Ducks only average 2.27 goals a game. Flyers are up at 2.65, 28th in the NHL. Do you know who's leading the way in goals per game, by the way?
What's that? Who's that?
The Buffalo Sabres. And Tage Thompson, 3.91 goals per game, ahead of the Boston Bruins, who are 29, 4-4, which is absurd. Ahead of the Stars, ahead of the Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl's in Edmonton. And, I mean, it's incredible. Ahead of Tampa, all these teams. The Buffalo Sabres, but they're only 18, 15, and 2.
I was going to say, that doesn't bode well for something. I don't know what. They have a plus 20 goal differential.
Yep, they give up a
lot.
lot.
I'm ready to say it doesn't bode well for their defense, but the 118 goals they've given up is not excessive.
Well, 3.37 per game. It's the 11th most in the NHL.
Yeah, I mean, it's not great, but there's teams that are worse. I'd like to go back and take a look at how that all shook out.
Well, nobody's worse at giving up goals per game than the Anaheim Ducks. 4.11 goals per game is what they give up. And they're a team that's got, kind of, this is going to be a battle tonight of the 45.5 face-off win percentage Flyers against a 46 flat face-off win percentage of the opponent tonight, Anaheim. So Anaheim is 28th in the league, and the Flyers are 30th in the league in the face-off. Somebody's got to win these draws tonight.
Maybe they'll just throw the puck in the corner.
Yeah, or they do like the street hockey thing, and they tap the sticks 3 times.
Go get it, boys!
It's like a possession clock now in basketball. The arrows pointing. Flyers get it this and throw it in their corner.
These guys have a minus 67 goal differential.
That's insane at this point in the season.
The only team I can remember being anywhere close to that is that Detroit team a few years back.
Yep. That's like 40-something points when it was all said and done.
Yeah, I don't forget what season that was, but yeah, I mean that was the worst team. Yeah, it was the 1920 season, so it was the shortened year in just 71 games, minus 122 goal differential.
Holy cow.
They finished the year 17-49-5.
Boy,
that's like a 1980s Detroit team.
That's hard to do.
That's the kind of crap.
39 points.
It's the kind of crap Timmy grew up watching.
Yeah. Then he left, and they were a wagon. They had 39 points that year in 71 games. The second worst team, the Ottawa Senators, had 62. 23 more points.
There you go.
That's tough. Let me get my headphones here because we're going to get ready to join our radio audience. And we're going to hear some AC/DC. It's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll.
And remember, again, let's note how bad that was, how much worse they were than everybody else, right? And all that stuff. Guess where they drafted? 4th.
5th, I believe.
Or 5th, yeah. Not they first.
They took Moritz Seider, if I remember correctly, right?
This is the Lucas Raymond draft. So
okay.
You're correct on being 5th, but that was 2021, I think.
Let me see here. So that's the Lafreniere draft. That's when the Rangers win the lottery.
Yeah.
Byfield goes to the Kings. Stützle goes to Ottawa. Raymond goes to Detroit at 4. Then you got Jake Sanderson, Jamie Drysdale. Jack Quinn went 8th that year. Cole Perfetti. Askarov was the goaltender to go into Nashville off the board from the year the Flyers took Tyson Forster. Okay. That's crazy.
Well, maybe we're going the wrong way because Edmondson was the 2021.
Well, the 2020 draft after that season that you're talking about with Detroit is the one where they drafted 4th.
Yes, Seider was 6th the year before that, so that was 2019.
Okay. So the 18-19 season, they finished with 74 points. 4th worst in the league.
Yeah.
But the Ottawa Senators finished with the worst record. So.
Oh, they did?
Right. Yeah.
So they traded that pick to Colorado. They got Bowen Byram with it, but that pick also came up drafting 4th.
Okay. We got 1 minute to join our radio audience.
That's two instances where the worst team in the league fell as far as they possibly could.
All right.
So the tank does not always work out the way you want it.
That's for sure. It's still a lottery. All right. I think we pretty much have the same lineup. Oh, there's some.
I
saw
never
a
know. Shuffle on defense.
Yeah. Would Sanheim D'Angelo be considered the top pair, I wonder?
Who knows?
Or would Provorov Ristolainen be considered the top pair, or York and Braun is probably your third pair no matter what? All right. Getting ready to join our radio audience here on Flyers Game Day. Eastern Standard Time is logged in. All right. Yeah, late night Philadelphia Flyers hockey as they are going to wrap up a road trip in Anaheim when they take on the Ducks. And the Flyers and Ducks tonight will give the Flyers an opportunity, Brian, to win 3 straight for the first time since game number 1, 2, and 3 of the season, if you can believe it.
Yeah, we are not used to seeing this kind of hockey on this trip. And we've seen it from the start. That's the thing for me is that from the start of that first game in San Jose, the energy level that this team has had on this trip has really been remarkable. But the Flyers have not had and this is it's really weird how we have to calculate this because sometimes the trip's longer than others. Sometimes, like this year, the Flyers are on the road for a couple of games before Christmas. They take the break, they come back, they're on the road into January. But, regardless of the length, anywhere between the 19th of December and the 6th of January, when the Flyers play consecutive road games in the last 8 years, they have never had more than 1 win. So they've already bested that. They could actually come away from this overall 5-game swing with a win tonight with a winning record, which would be the first time since 2014 that they've done that. They've had a total of 4 wins in the last 6 years during this swing. So, that just kind of puts it into a little bit of context how rare it is for this team in recent years to play so well on this particular swing. And, I'm sure that there's lots of debates on why it might happen that way, but this is not something that we see every year where they go out in California and do as well as they are.
No question about it. Do you remember where you were 10 years ago on this day?
I
11 years ago, sorry.
I have an inkling. I know where I was 12 years ago yesterday. I wore this in honor of the last Fenway game that the Flyers were in.
And, that was actually 13 years ago.
That was 13 years ago now. The 2010 Winter Classic sweatshirt that I have on for those of us in the radio audience that can't see it on our stream. But that was a different one. This one that you're talking about is 10 years there. Is it 10?
It's 11 years.
Yeah.
Because it was 2012. So that's now 11 years ago, Flyers and Rangers. I see on my Facebook memories. It says, all right, today's the Winter Classic. Flyers Rangers for first place in the division. Doesn't get any better than that. I'll be doing the broadcast along with Tim Saunders, Chris Terrian, and Brian Smith. So we've been at this a while.
And have a common coach for this for this game tonight. I believe Torts was on the bench in that game on the other side. Was he not?
Yeah. I believe he was, as a matter of fact. His last season there, I think so. So.
What's kind of eerie today, I don't know if you saw that Jacob Russell scored for the Boston Bruins, but it was eerily similar to the one Marco Sturm scored against the Flyers. The game played out exactly the same way. Flyers, remember in that game, took a 1-0 lead, and Danny Savret's name made the broadcast today. I was stunned.
Wow.
But Danny Savret scored
you were stunned. You just Savret was.
His first and maybe his only goal as a Flyer. I'm not 100% sure. I didn't look that up, but Flyers were leading that game to the third period. Bruins tied it up, and then they got the winner in overtime in that one. This one happened in regulation. But, yeah, you saw a lot of that Michael, Jeff Carter. The scariest thing for me was Charlie Coyle was at that game as about a 10-year-old kid or 12-year-old kid. They were showing a picture of that. And in the background, you can see the Fenway Park press box where Tippett and Christarian were sitting, you and I, a little bit. Yeah, I mean, we're all old, aren't we?
Yeah, been around a little bit too long. Well, let's give you the Flyers lineup tonight, a courtesy of our on-site reporter, Olivia Reiner from the Philadelphia Inquirer, Inquirer.com. And here's the Flyers line combinations. The forward lines, totally the same. Frost, Van Riemsdyk, Tippett, Cates, Farabee, Konechny, Lawton, Hayes, Allison, Brown, Delaurier, McEwen. You got your consistency there. Defense, that's gone into the blender. Here you go. I don't know if these are in any particular order. I'll have to ask Olivia on Thursday at the game. Do you put the pairings in order? Sanheim and D'Angelo together. Provorov and Ristolainen reunite. And I think Ristolainen, Bry, is actually coming off his best game as a Flyer.
It's up there. It definitely is. He had a lot of the stuff in his game that the Flyers brought him in for, things like physical play and the block shots as well. It was definitely an impressive one, and it's certainly one they hope the Flyers can see him start to duplicate more and more often.
Yeah, I didn't see him chasing plays, really kind of just doing the right things, playing within himself. The third pair, out comes Nick Seeler, in comes Justin Braun, and he'll play alongside Cam York. Seeler made a really good play. Torts brought it up post-game, too, and we talked about it, getting on his horse and getting up the ice on that shorthanded goal that Kate scored. He was the guy that, from the blue line, from the back end, jumped up there and started that rush, and then along with Patrick Brown as well. So it'll be York and Braun on that third pairing, and it looks like York will play on his left side for this game. And getting the start is Sam Ersson, his third start in a row. And, Bri, we really liked the game we saw out of him in that last outing.
Yeah, absolutely. He has been nothing but solid since he got those jitters out of the way there in the first two periods or so, period and a half of the Carolina game. He is going to give the Flyers something to think about. They're going to come home here tomorrow, and they're going to have to send a goalie back to Lehigh Valley, and it's going to be interesting to see how they approach this because, Ersson has come out and I think, by and large, shown had a better showing to this point. We'll see what happens tonight. But he's had a better showing, I think, to this point than Felix Sandstrom has this year. So we'll have to see where that goes. But certainly a good place to be. If he comes out and throws an 85 save percentage over 3 games, now the Flyers got to figure out who their actual backup's going to be because they're not sure about either of them. So it's a good problem to have, but it'll be interesting to see how they handle it.
All right, so the Flyers are going for a 3-game win streak for the first time since the first 3 games of the year. And we have got Tim Saunders and Steve Coates on site. They're going to bring you all the action from Anaheim. Also coming up, the countdown to face-off. Stay tuned. It's late night hockey in Anaheim right here. And we'll bring you all the action throughout the evening and all the highlights and much more. Stay tuned. That's coming up after this. You've been listening to Flyers Game Day, brought to you by Betway on the Flyers Broadcast Network.